welcome everybody to the webinar on spring cleaning your finances. It's lovely to have you here. Thank you for taking some time out of all of your busy days. We are going to be talking today about, well, really, what am I talking about? What do I mean when I say spring cleaning your finances? And also, how do you do it? What does it mean? How can we save money? How can it help us with our ultimate goals when it comes to money? So I'd like to introduce myself for those that don't know me. My name is Naomi Haynes. I'm a financial advisor, but I help people achieve their goals along their financial journeys and help them gain control of their money. So I am looking forward to going through everything with you. And I'm going to start with that question is, what am I talking about? And actually, before I do, please feel free to just put a question in the chat, to just pipe up and ask any questions, anything that's you're not sure of, please just let me know. I want this to be as interactive as possible, just so that to help you kind of absorb everything, get through and get out of this what you really need. So it is springtime, and actually we've had the sun out here, so it's really starting to feel like it's spring the last week, which is fantastic. So this is the time. The tax year is drawing to a close in just under a fortnight. We start thinking about, look, winter's ended, and let's start getting ready for the summer. So spring signifies new beginnings. It's the spring clean terminology is all about having a clear and clean home as you head into the summer and at the start of the year. So I quite like the fact that as we're about to start a new tax year, talking about finances, having a good spring clean is good. So what does this mean? This is basically, let's just talk about how can we get our finances in order for the new year, and how to keep them there and what that all means. So as many of you know, I think there's a really strong connection between our own well-being and having a clean and tidy home. And I feel that that's absolutely resonates when we talk about money. So if physically tidying and cleaning a room can help us reduce stress, then just think about what doing that with our finances could actually do for us, the advantages that it could have. So what I'm going to talk about today is really how to spring clean our finances, and that's a bit of decluttering, tidying up, and getting things in order and organizing. So I would love to just go through how to do this. So as you can see, I've got a handy little checklist here, but before we really start on what to do, let's just quickly chat through, when I talk about financial cleaning and decluttering, what do I actually mean? So what I mean by decluttering your finances is exactly the same as if you've got a room that's full of lots of belongings, lots of all different things in all different places. It's about knowing what you have, where it is, and going through each of those items, so each of those items in the room, and just having a look. Do you want to keep it? Where should it be best placed? Where's it going to be? Doing what you need it to do from you. So interesting. I don't know, have any of you read the book by Marie Kondo, The Life-Changing Art of Tidying? I'd love to know if any of you have read it, because I've been reading it. So great. So thank you. So yeah, we've got one yes here as well. And actually, because we're doing some decorations and actually perpetually always trying to keep everything tidy, I was really interested in having a read, and I'm quite a big a lot of the way through. And I find it really interesting because, you know me, I'm going to relate it to money as well as thinking about what can I do in my own home. So I find it really useful because Marie Kondo talks about the importance of discarding. So making sure that you really start with getting rid of anything you don't need. And actually, she says anything that doesn't give you joy. And I absolutely love that fact. And when it comes to money, I think that's actually not a bad place to start. So if we're thinking about what we want to achieve, how we tidy. So I say a good place to start is think about where are all your finances. So you'll have bank accounts, you will likely have credit cards. Get all your statements together. Make this list, which we've got here, but then get all of your statements together. And then it's about going through everything that's there. So you've made a list of all of your bank accounts, your savings accounts, your investments, your pension, your credit card accounts, everywhere where your money is stored. So just like tidying the home, you've got all your different rooms and locations and everything. So have a list. Make sure you at least know where everything is. And actually, a really good point is a lot of people may even come across a hurdle at this first stage, because you may know where all your bank accounts, but not everybody necessarily will know or remember every bank account that they've got. But in particular, when you start going through and think about investments and pensions, there's a likelihood that there may be some pensions out there that you don't know about. So I think it really is important to at least make that list. That's the absolute first stage of getting your finances in order. And of course, if you hit a stumbling block right at the start, don't worry, there are things that you can do. All the way through this, I'll be saying, if you aren't sure, don't panic, don't worry. You can always speak to a professional, someone like me, to help you kind of get through to the next stage. So stage 1 is done. Stage 2 is collecting all of your statements. Now, I recommend, before you all have a worry or anything, I recommend getting all your statements that last throughout the last 12 months for the whole year. Now, I only recommend you get statements for anywhere where money is spent. So that may not include your pensions and investments, but I think that list at the first point is knowing what you've got and where everything is. Then get your statements for everywhere that you spend money from. And if you do that for the last year, yes, don't worry, you're not going to be kind of going through everything all at once necessarily, but that is really important because there will be annual amounts coming out, annual direct debits, standing orders, all of that could be in there. So you didn't hear it wrong. From the last year, get all those statements together. Now, I really like doing things online. I don't like the paper. I like to be conscious of the environment, but some people like to have the physical statements in front of them. So if you've got physical statements in front of you, make sure that you've also got a highlighter pen. So, you've got your statements, you've got your highlighter pen, and just take a little bit of time to go through them. So what a lot of bank accounts also do, if you're struggling to get a bank account statement for the last year, you can sometimes online create a bespoke statement from let's say the 1st of March 2021 to the 28th of February 2022, and then you can put everything together. For pensions and investments, if you've got your statements, they will likely be for the last year. And if not, if you don't have any statements, particularly for pensions and investments, that's a good place just to at least get them so you know what you've got. Then the next stage, this is really important, is make sure you recognize everything on there. Now, easier said than done. If you saw my bank and credit card statements for the last year, you would probably be overwhelmed to start with. So all I would say is you may want to break this up into little lots as well. But over time, just spend, even if it's just spending a few minutes every moment, just going through, making sure that you recognize everything and highlight anything you don't recognize. Okay, so that's really important. As I say, I like to do it online and I go through it, and we will go through some ways that can help you do that as well. So, not to worry if that becomes a problem. Then the next thing I would say is any items, so once you've gone through your list, any items that you've highlighted that you don't recognise, you need to investigate until you know what it is. Now, I stress that because I have done this. When you go through and you don't know what it is, unfortunately a lot of providers don't make it really simple and put a line item that says this is Naomi's car servicing plan with her car and not her husband's or anything. They tend not to be that helpful. So there is likely going to be providers on there you don't recognize, items that sums of money that you don't recognize or anything. Highlight it all. Do make sure you call the bank to make sure you know what it is. Have a real look at it to make sure you know what's going on there. I would say usually if you're doing this for the first time, you are highly likely going to find something that either once you've recognized it, you don't use, or it could be something that you didn't even realize you were still being charged for. And this is usually the simplest and the best point, in which case you can go, oh my gosh, I'm still paying for that. Just turn it off. Already you'll start to see the bank statement, things coming out looking better. Just so you know, I do this regularly. There are always things that I find. They may be rare, but there's always something that I find when I do this regularly. And I actually do it, I go through with maintenance, I do have a look at it in a different way, which we'll go on to in a moment. Now, once you've gone through and you recognize everything, you've got rid of anything that you really don't use anymore, or in particular that you didn't realize you were being charged for. The next question is everything else. Next rule, do you actually really need it? Now, that really takes me back to the Marie Kondo book. Does it give you joy? And I absolutely love this criteria, because there is lots of things that you're like, yeah, that's fine. Actually, yeah, I do use it. I do need it. But actually, if I then just stop and ask myself and think about what I am actually paying for and ask myself whether I need it, with me, I've kind of been able to cross off a few more things. And it has been a really good way for me to save money. One really good place for me, just, I don't know if any of you do any subscribe and saves, by the way. So I'm on Amazon subscribe and save, and of course a lot of the time it just keeps coming through, and so I find that going through everything and realizing what I'm actually paying for and thinking, wait, stop, do I really need this? That helps, and then it kind of helps me put through and make sure that I'm not spending my money on things that I genuinely may not need. And actually I do feel a lot lighter when that's all done. And then the final part of this that I really recommend you doing is, once you've got to the point, everything now that's on your statement that's not been stopped, you need it, you want it, it gives you joy, really important. Are you getting the best value for money for it? And that is really key in my opinion, because I am a real victim of the easy life. You know, we all want the easy life. We're all so busy, working really hard, and then you've got something that's coming out of your bank account, but it may not be the best value out there. So by going through this whole list and this whole mechanism, hopefully you have got to a point with your finances where actually you now know everything that's in all of your statements. You know what money is being spent, what money you have, what it's doing, and making sure that everything that goes out is needed, it's wanted, and it's good value for money. And so that's pretty much the checklist from a decluttering point of view and from a real spring cleaning of your bank accounts. I found this can lead to a decent amount of success. And then what you're then going to have is you'll then have a really good idea of how much you're spending each month. So if we just go to this next point is, well, why should you do this? I think, first of all, the most important one is you should save money. And actually, every little can accumulate quite a bit. Even if you just find one or two subscriptions or one or two things, that can be really impactful. Another way I think it's important is because you've found out everything that you've got everything for the best value for money, but now you've got a really good sense of how much you're spending and of your spending habits. How much is going out each month, each year? Maybe you'll find that certain times of the year are more expensive. So for me, I just know that the second half of the year, and actually from about September, it's just the most brutal time of the year for us. So we've got both my daughters have their birthdays in at that time of year, and we're leading up to Christmas, and we're leading up to other birthdays and everything. So I actually find it's just a really difficult time of year on my bank, on my finances. But if you know that in advance, you can budget ahead. So I do think that it's important that you save money, that you avoid wasting money, obviously, but it does help you get a sense of your ebb and flow of your finances. And all of this will help you get control of what's going out of your accounts and of your money, basically. So I think it's really good. I think it's great to be able to get a bird's eye view of your finances, and also it makes it easier for you to spot any gaps, any shortfalls, that maybe there are some areas that you're not focusing on. Maybe there are some areas that you're actually spending a lot more money than you realized. You may be spending a lot more money, even if it's just on grocery shopping or something. Whatever that is, it can be quite eye-opening and really important to help you work out what's going on with your money. So that should give you a really good idea of how you can be in control of your money. The last thing I would say, a really important reason for doing this is due to the fact that the number of scams and financial crime out there is rising significantly. It's a very sad state of affairs, but if we don't know what's going on with our own finances, there is a high likelihood that maybe something that you're not in control of is going on. And if you have your finger on the pulse a little bit more, if you really do keep an eye on what's going in and out of your accounts, you may be able to pick up a scam or something that's going on, some money that's leaving your account much quicker than other times. So I do think it's important to take that action and to have a go at least giving one big kind of spring clean to your finances. So that is all good. Well, you know, it's all easy for me to say, but actually, as in all decluttering books and as in Marie Kondo's book as well, what's really important is to be able to maintain this and avoid any rebound. Because what used to happen with me is I would, many years ago, let's say decades ago, because it was, I would have everything in order. I'd be going through everything, make sure it's okay. But then you let things slip because you go through busy periods or something happens. And then you basically find that you're left having to constantly do these big one-off cleanses, when actually, if you can have some simple ways and tips to be able to maintain it, then that should also be helpful. Keep things ticking along, and then you don't ever have to worry about really going through that whole pile of statements again. Or if you don't go through the pile of statements, you know, at least once you've done a bit of your decluttering, maintaining it is going to be really important. You don't want things to slip back in and to slip away from you. So what I recommend, and you can see I've got some ideas here. I do think that that having some kind of budget is really useful, but please don't panic. Just because I love my spreadsheets and I have everything on a spreadsheet, that's unusual. There are some amazing budgeting apps out there, some that you don't have to pay for as well, so it's not an unnecessary expense. So I have used Emma in the past, literally Emma as in the name. You can get the app on an iPhone or on a smartphone as well. And an app like that or like Plum are really worth having a look at. They can really help you with your spending habits and with ways to save. Now, the next suggestion of having different accounts, I would say, doesn't suit everybody. So please don't think that if you've got an account for your essential expenditures, if you have an account for holidays, if you have an account for all different aspects that you want to be saving up for, could be account for the kids, whatever it is, some people this does not work for. So please don't necessarily open up lots of different accounts if you're going to find it difficult to keep track of them. We've all just had a look at decluttering and cleansing and cleaning all of your statements out. And actually what I will say is, if you find that you do have some bank accounts open and they're not being used, if you're the sort of person that could lose track of all the different accounts that you've got, then close down those extra accounts. There's no point having an account open. But there are some accounts where you can designate different spaces. So Starling have an account and you can just designate different spaces, so you can put different amounts in different buckets basically for different roles. That could be useful. Then it's a lot easier to keep track of. But if you find it difficult, make sure that you don't have extra accounts out there, almost kind of like cluttering up your finances, because that could just make things more complicated. And you never know what could happen if they're current accounts. You may end up accidentally spending from the wrong account or setting something up in the wrong account. So making sure you know what you've got with your bank accounts. But I think having different accounts is really, really helpful. I put on here monthly checks. I do think that is really important, just to give a glance over any monthly statements that you do have that do make their way through to you. But the last suggestion on here of a roundup account, I think that has done away with my need to do monthly checks. So does anybody know what a roundup account is, or a roundup app? So So not many people do, and I ask, and actually yes. So Plum is one of those. Plum do provide a roundup facility. So do Starling. So do lots of other other financial platforms. I think roundup applications or accounts are just underutilized, underestimated in their value. I really value them. So I use roundup accounts. What a roundup account is, for those that don't know, is you connect your app, let's say Plum or let's say Starling. It's connected to all of your credit cards. So I use Moneybox, by the way, so anyone that wants to know. Anything that's spent. Now that's, for me, it's from my business account, it's from my current account, from my credit cards, from savings accounts, from every account that I've got. Any money that leaves it is fed through into the app. And what that means is that on a daily basis, and yet I sometimes, funnily enough, if I miss it, it doesn't matter. You can just have a look at it and it goes through all the transactions that have happened. And then that does one of two things. You then get the option. So let's say I spent £7.80 on an item. Because we're talking about spring cleaning, let's say I spent that on a cleaning bucket or something. That £7.80, what the app then does is it says, cleaning bucket, where you got it from, that it costs £7.80, and do you want to round it up? And I then look at it, go, I did buy that, I recognise it, yes, I want to round it up. And then what happens is that 20 pence that rounds it up to £8, to the nearest pound, will then be saved into that savings account. And actually, Rachel, you've just been talking about that Plum have got some rules and everything that you can program into it, that it does some saving as well. And I think those are really valuable, and I definitely agree, and I'm going to give some hints and tips on saving a little bit later, and in just a moment actually. And that's exactly what I do for myself, is having some of those rules. So these roundup accounts are amazing because they're a really great way for you to be able to save, but also they are essential. They are fantastic because you can see every transaction that's going through. And for me, there have been some transactions that have been wrong amounts, mistakenly taken out, or that I didn't realize I was actually still paying for, but I saw it on my roundup app and have been able to quickly nip that in the bud and at least know what's coming out of my account. So that neatly takes us through the maintenance, and I've just got another, just some handy hints and tips for how we can help keep our finances in order, finances under control, and everything. What I've got here, this is a list of priorities. I call it the priority list. And if you're looking at thinking of doing something with your finances, I always say the best place to start is paying off expensive debt. And with expensive debt, I mean credit card bills. But obviously, if you've got 0% finance, that's not the expensive debt. But it's always about knowing what you've got, what interest are you paying on it. And I always say that first place to really start cutting back, is paying off the expensive debt. Then it's having a rainy day fund. I think having a rainy day fund is absolutely essential. A rainy day fund is literally instantly accessible money that is put away in your, if you've got a savings pot or a separate account, in a separate account that's psychologically out of out of temptation's way. That's the word I was looking for. But if something goes wrong and you need to access money, it is there so that you don't end up, not paying your mortgage off 1 month, or if something happens and the boiler breaks, you've got the money there. I always recommend 3 months worth of essential expenditure is a good place to start, and then think about your own financial situation and work up from there. This can be the hardest place for people to really look at with their finances, because first of all, it's in an instantly accessible account, which means it's working against inflation. It's losing you the real purchasing power of that money, but it's there. It's your safety blanket. It's your emergency fund. It's really important. And I would say now more than ever, it's really important to have a rainy day fund. We are seeing the cost of living rising. We're seeing lots of upheaval going on everywhere. So that rainy day fund, I should probably have it highlighted in that sense. I think it's really important. And then the next thing on the list, that's protection. That's your financial security. That is absolutely essential. Your rainy day fund is your first layer of protection, but then it's protection from anything unforeseen that happens. Now, a lot of you may know life insurance or mortgage protection, so that if anything happens to you, that family aren't left with the debt of the mortgage to then need to worry about, or have to even worry about having to move out of the house. There are other forms of protection as well, protecting ourselves. So if we're too sick to work, yes, we may have a rainy day fund, but do we get suitable sick pay to last us until we want to retire? Then I'd say retirement planning. Retirement planning, I think, is more important than saving and investments, because a lot of people get to their retirement after having a very comfortable, very successful career, very comfortable standard of living, but actually fully underestimating how much they've got to then live off for what should be the time when they reap all the rewards for all the hard work that they've put in through their career. And then savings and investments. All of this is a good way to make sure your money's working really hard for you. All of the spring cleaning that we've done already, that is making sure that all the money that you've worked really, really hard for continues to work hard for you and is being used to purchase the things that you need, that you want, and that give you joy. So what I wanted to do was just finish off with a few hints and tips on ways to save, ways to kind of help you build up that rainy day fund, and then hopefully once that's built up, build up a really good cushion for all the things that you deserve and worked really hard to get. And so, Rachel, your suggestion about Plum is absolutely a fantastic way that can help you save. What I will say is, one really good way to help you limit your spending is with the use of a top-up card. And so, and I'm pleased that I can see, by the way, Liz is smiling from ear to ear, because I feel, and everyone's different with their finances, so this may not suit everybody, but having a top-up card helps you spend intentionally. And I don't know if other people have used this phrase, but I use the term, when you spend, make it intentional. If you are using a top-up card, it's not going to be, like may happen with me and maybe quite a lot, that you're online or you're in a shop and you see something and you just get pulled away by the emotion of it and say, I must have that. It's very easy just to spend that money. So what I would say is, take a step back. If you've got a top-up card, that will help make the spending more intentional. So you can all it does is just make you think, have I got enough money on my card to spend that? Because that's what a top-up card is where you literally load the card with a set amount of money to be able to pay for it. And then it just gives you that moment's thought on it. So I like the top-up card, particularly when it comes to that, and it can help prevent impulse buying. Another way that I try to, with myself, to prevent impulse buying is I have the 3-day rule. if you see something that you like, if you can, wait 3 days. And then after those 3 days, if you still want it, then that's worth looking at and then going and buying. And what that does, it just prevents impulse buys, and you can save money that way. I use my roundup accounts. That's a really good way that I save money. But I also have I have some other rules. So I've got my 3-day rule. I have a 10% rule. So, this is about how I save money when I spend. So let's say I want to buy something for £100. So if I really want to buy that, so let's say it's some clothes or something, I'm like, I really want to buy that. My 10% rule it does also stop the impulse, because it makes me think, and right, if I spent that £100, can I then afford to take 10% of that, that's £10, and put it in my savings account? If the answer is no, then maybe it's about have another think about it. But actually with me, chances are, if I can spend that £100, then I can put that £10 in my savings account. So what I'm really doing is I'm saving as well. So I'm building up that pot for whatever it is I'm saving for. And also, and actually I do this with my children, but it's not a 10% rule with the kids. It's a 50% rule with the children, because for them, spending money that's in their savings account or in their current account, depending on what ages they are, it works really well with children. It also kind of helps them with maths as well. So it's very much like, look, if you want to spend this £5 on that toy, have you got enough money then to put £5 into your savings account? And that's how I work it out. That's how we've worked with them now for so many years. And actually now, when my kids are like, look, I want to buy that, it costs £5, it's like, do I have £10? Yes, I do. That's how it works. So it's you can obviously make the percentage whatever works for you if you want to use it. Then I have my savings rule. This one is, if there's a sale, let's say that £100 dress that I had my eye on, I go back 3 days later and it's £80. Okay. Now, what I then do is, that's great. So I will obviously buy it. I'll put the money into my savings account, but and then I'll put £8 into the savings account. That's my 10% rule. But then I'm like, well, I've just saved £20. So then I use my 50-50 rule on the savings, and I say, right, I've just saved £20. We'll put £10 into my savings, and then I'll enjoy that £10, stay in my bank account, or do whatever you want to do with it. So I like that. And a lot of times when someone was supposed to come round and do something, if that doesn't happen, if I save money, immediately roughly half of that goes straight into my savings account. And then so I'm still better off because I haven't spent that money, but I'm still building up my savings. And the final thing I want to say about savings is having a goal is really helpful. If you've just putting £10 here and there, it's good having rules and everything, but if you've got a real goal in mind, have a think about something that you really want. It may be, it could be something like a new car, or decorating a room, or an extension, or even if it's something just smaller, whatever it is, having a goal does make it easier. Building a savings pot, building savings is really difficult. But if you're saving for something specific, it does make it really a lot easier. It helps you stay focused as well, and means that you can, and it just helps you kind of go through that. So that brings me really to kind of to the end. Where do you go from here? So it's really easier said than done, and it does take an element of discipline. So what I would say is, doing little bits or just taking little snippets of the hints and tips from this webinar is a really good place to start. If you're finding it really difficult, you want to go through all of your past statements or anything, just building things into smaller chunks and just having a look at a week every so often or something like that. It's really important not to get overwhelmed, because this can lead to being overwhelmed. It's supposed to be setting you free and helping you feel much more in control and much more free. So all I would say is just break it down into chunks. If it's something that you're really worried about or that you get overwhelmed about, that's why there's people like me. So just feel free to get in touch and I will help. And that's really all I've got to say. So I'd love to ask if anybody has got any questions. Just smiling faces, that's fine. If no one's got any questions as well, and obviously you can always just get in touch with me at a later date to ask any questions if you do have any. Yes, there'll be lots of things to go and put into action, but I hope you can take away, even if it's just 1 or 2 things to do that will help you save some money, help you get some things in a little bit more order, then my job is done. Thank you very much, everybody. You take good care, and I hope to see you at my next webinar. Thanks.